Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville, and part three of and the last part of my little series of your questions, my answers for May 2021. This has been an absolute ball. I love doing these. I'll do another one in about 4 or 5 months. So if I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. Just remember what it is. Okay, so with all of that said, see you on the other side of the intro, and I'll get into answering your questions. I didn't notice, but Ji Leung had a second go asking a second question around bronze watches. What do I think their longevity is? Oh, look, bronze watches will last hundreds of years. Parts of ships are made of bronze and they last that long. Actually, I'm being facetious. I know you're not talking about the watches themselves. I suspect you're talking about them as are they going to be fashionable? Is it something the community will still be buying? Yes, but only to the extent they do now. Bronze is right now at best a niche product. With the exception of Oris, most companies have one, maybe two bronze watches, and it's a bit of a sideshow. I think that'll continue in the future. Bronze is an attractive material that some enthusiasts like to buy. That will remain true for the foreseeable future. But at the same time, it'll still only be a marginal product that some people buy into the future, just as it is now. Baron OFC asks a question: if I didn't live in Perth, West Australia, where would I like to live? First off, Baron, I don't live in Perth. I live in Melbourne, Victoria. If I didn't live in Melbourne, Victoria, where would I like to live? Newcastle, New South Wales. I have lived there before and I absolutely loved it. I am Melbourne born, bred, and in all of my travels, I haven't found a place I want to live more than here. However, the next would be Newcastle, New South Wales. If you wanted to ask outside of Australia, much trickier. Right now, I would say my favourite place to live is a weird crescent of countries, sort of southern Germany, Western Austria, northern Italy. Kind of imagine it wrapping around Switzerland. That makes it sound like I don't want to live in Switzerland. It's just that I've got no experience being there, or very limited experience living there, so I'm not going to really commit to it. But I've spent quite a bit of time in southern Germany, Western Austria, northern Italy. The climate, the people, the attitude, the culture, the availability of travel, everything about that region I really enjoy. So that's where I'd like to live if I wasn't in Australia. Today, I reserve the right to change my mind tomorrow. Okay, so Tanoki's asked me some very specific questions about a very specific Omega special edition, the first Omega in space. I can't really answer precisely around that actual watch. I don't have that much insight. I haven't paid that much attention. I would say across the board, Omega sometimes seems to have no real strategy in how to deal with its heritage pieces, and its special editions. I do sometimes feel like they just put a blindfold on, reach their hand into a big bucket and see what number they drag out. I think that there is enormous scope for them to establish a core line of multiple heritage versions that they keep going, either for limited runs or maybe just limited time frames, and then to add and subtract to that over time. But I think to do that, they need a much more structured and planned strategy than they have right now. Ilfonso's asked for a comparison between Hodinkee and A Blog to Watch. Hodinkee was started by Ben Clymer, an ex-investment banker who, while doing a master's, started a lifestyle blog to make some money, focused on a topic he was enthusiastic about, watches. A Blog to Watch was started by Ariel Adams, a lawyer who was enthusiastic about watches and really concerned that there was no one providing the kind of independent review of watches the way that, say, Road and Track did for cars. Right from the beginning, Hodinkee has been always seen as a money-making venture, talking about a certain type of luxury item, luxury experience, centered on but not necessarily focused on watches. A Blog to Watch has always been about critical, independent, arm's length review, criticism, and analysis. What does that mean for the future? In 20 years' time, I can tell you that Hodinkee is going to be worth billions of dollars. A Blog to Watch will probably be worth not much more than it is right now, which is probably not very much. I can also predict that in 20 years' time, there's every possibility that Hodinkee will rarely, if ever, talk about watches and could well end up spending more time talking about Leicas, classic Porsches, and holidays to northern France. Whereas I think in 20 years' time, a Blog to Watch is still going to be struggling along, desperately trying to review watches. That's how I see the difference between the two companies. Greg Clarkson asks 2 questions. What watch would I put in a capsule to be opened in 100 years? And what watch would I put into a spacecraft to send to an alien? Okay, my answer to the first question would be a Black Bay 58. I don't think any other watch sums up our current obsession with neo-vintage, retro-styled kind of generic dive watch more than the Black Bay 58. If you wanted to have a single view of the state of watch collecting today, for better or worse, a Black Bay 58 is what I would put in that time capsule. What would I put in a spacecraft to send to an alien? Well, you know what? It's in a spacecraft wrapped in technology. The spacecraft will say everything that you can say to an alien about our technology. So the watch inside it is actually, for me, going to be talking about what we can do from an art point of view. So I can't pin down the exact watch, but for me, it would be something like a Jacques Dreux automaton, or perhaps a Vacheron, a Métis d'Art, or maybe a Bulgari Divas Peacock collection, something like that. Jonathan Harley asks May 2020 or May 2021. I'm thinking I'm probably still going to choose May 2021. May 2020 sucked, but the jury is still out. Ask me in a couple of weeks. Matt M asked, why do I think the JLC Polaris line didn't really seem to take off? Size, price, brand, a little bit of all of those things. Firstly, I think we need to be cautious about what our bar of success is. JLC is a tiny watch company. They sell like 50,000 watches a year. They sell probably less watches total than Rolex sells Submariners and GMT Masters combined. So their sense of what would be a success is not necessarily what the rest of us would. That said, I do think the Polaris hasn't created the buzz, the hype that even JLC was expecting. Why is that? My gut feel is because it was a little half-hearted. It never felt like JLC truly committed to the Polaris line. It felt like they were putting a toe in the water and not going the whole hog. You'll note that there's enormous enthusiasm for the occasional special edition they do, where they seem to go a little bit extra, give it a little bit more oomph. I think the standard Polaris line is just a little too vanilla. The best JLC tool watches involve a certain degree of crazy, and JLC just didn't quite give us enough crazy with its Polaris. I do note with the Mariner, they seem to have pushed it a little bit further. So if they can stay on that path and just give it a bit more pizzazz, I do think the Polaris is fundamentally a good watch and could make it to be something. Okay, so my absolute last answer here. Michael OC asks, what changes would I like to make to Cartier's watches offerings? I sat on this for a day or so and penned some thoughts, because really there's nothing in the Cartier range I really like. But then I did put a line through everything, scrunched up that paper and threw it away, because you know what? I don't want Cartier to make any changes. I don't want them to want me to want one of their watches. Too many companies make vanilla, generic, appeal vaguely to everyone but don't appeal enormously to anyone kind of pieces. Cartier aren't ever going to dominate the market. Cartier aren't ever going to be everyone's favorite company. And you know what? I think that's brilliant. I think that's fantastic. I would love Cartier to do nothing more than keep making watches that the people that love Cartier love. They seem to be doing that right now. So you know what? I don't want them to change anything. Okay, so that's it. The last of this session of your questions, my answers for this period. As I said earlier, I'll get back to this in another couple of months and we'll have another go round. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Thank you so much for the great questions. Please like and subscribe and do all that YouTube-y stuff. I really should get better at that. And what else? Well, I suppose my sign off. I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches, and I'll see you later. Bye.